There is a paradox in this work. When I'm in a higher state of consciousness, I know exactly what I must do in order to be, but I don't need that knowledge because I already am. When I'm in a lower state of consciousness, I forget what I must do in order to be, precisely when that knowledge would be most beneficial to me. In this tutorial, we will explore the role of attitudes in bridging between those two extremes, a way of retaining some of the traces of my higher understandings even when my consciousness has declined. We will draw from the biblical story of Moses descending from Mount Sinai with tablets as an allegory of retaining something with us when we descend from a higher state. And we will set an aim to apply these methods throughout the week, pulling against the wrong attitudes of negative emotions by applying positive attitudes.
And yet a person accustomed to self-observation knows for certain that at different periods of his life he has understood one and the same idea, one and the same thought, in totally different ways. It often seems strange to him that he could have understood so wrongly that which, in his opinion, he now understands rightly.
To be conscious, to be, is what this work is all about. If I could be conscious by will, then a system, a structure, a pyramid wouldn't be necessary. But because my consciousness fluctuates, now it is present, then it is absent, and now it returns again, I need a system to remind me of my aims and help me climb back to where I want to be. One problem I'm up against is that my understanding fluctuates with my consciousness. I may understand something very clearly right now, but lose that understanding later on at a moment where it would particularly be useful for me. This means that if I want to become more consistent in this work, I must find ways to leave traces of my higher understandings, like Hansel and Gretel leaving breadcrumbs to help them find their way back home. These breadcrumbs are our attitudes.
We do not realize what enormous power lies in thinking. I do not mean that as a philosophical explanation of power. The power lies in the fact that if we always think rightly about certain things, we can make it permanent. It grows into a permanent attitude.
In last week's tutorial, we saw that negative emotions were based on wrong attitudes. We focused on one of these attitudes, namely expectation. We counterbalanced expectation with a new attitude of accepting the present on its own terms, sacrificing inflexibility, becoming hospitable to the unexpected surprises of the moment. Now that we know of this new attitude and have somewhat experimented with it, the challenge still remains to remember it at the critical moment and to reach out to it, especially during a state of negativity when my consciousness is low. This is the big enigma of the work, remembering what we've already understood. This reaching up from a lower state to the understandings of a higher state is portrayed in the story of Moses ascending and descending Mount Sinai.
And Moses went up into the mount, and a cloud covered the mount, and Moses went into the midst of the cloud.
Moses ascending Mount Sinai to meet God is an allegorical expression of us ascending the B pyramid from a lower to a higher state of consciousness. In a painting of this scene by Lucas Cranach, Moses is shown atop the mountain receiving the tablets of the law from God, who is hidden within a cloud. The fact that Moses walks into a cloud means he cannot see where he's going. He's walking into the unknown, which is exactly our situation. When we are at the bottom of the pyramid, at a lower state of consciousness, we forget what it is like to be at the top, at a higher state of consciousness. To ascend the pyramid, we too will have to climb into the unknown.
Darkness means an absence of knowing, in the sense that everything you do not know or have forgotten is dark to you, because you cannot see it with your mind's eye. And for this reason, it is called a cloud of unknowing that is between you and your God.
But what is of particular interest to us in this tutorial is what Moses brings down the mountain with him, the tablets of stone. These tablets will remain accessible even after he has descended Mount Sinai, meaning when consciousness is no longer there. They symbolize our memories of higher states of consciousness, documentation that I've been up there and remember what it was like. Now that we have these attitudes, we will not be reaching to consciousness out of blind trust. We will be working out of past verification, working in the dark because we remember the light. A Russian icon portrays this reaching up to the invisible. God the Father is shown in the faintest outlines, invisible to man below, hidden by a cloud of unknowing. But His image, God the Son, is visible in physical form. Although consciousness might not be accessible to us in a state of negativity, the attitudes we've formed around negativity remain with us. These are the tablets of stone that are there with us at the bottom of Mount Sinai. The more we use them, the more permanent they become, independent of the fluctuations of our consciousness. This is why each week I encourage you to focus on the success in each exercise and disregard the failures. You only need one success each exercise to progress in this work. If you succeeded only once in resisting the expression of negativity last week, you've already started carving your tablets. These tablets will increase the likelihood that you will succeed again next time round.
If you do even 1/10 of what is suggested, very soon you will have facts, and then you must base your attitude on these facts, not on theories. Faith is a passive thing. We have to verify everything, accept nothing on faith.
As we saw in the tutorial on knowledge and being, the results in this work are proportionate to our understanding and verification. We began working with negativity 2 weeks ago, but since then our understanding and verifications have increased. Therefore, our efforts should now be more effective. Which brings us to this week's exercise. We will continue working on negative emotions, now that we have the initial hints of our tablets or attitudes. When we catch ourselves negative, at the bottom of the pyramid, so to speak, let's bear in mind this image of reaching up into the unknown, of remembering our past verifications, of resisting the expression of negativity by using positive attitudes.
Moses entered the darkness of unknowing, darkness in which all knowledge is shut up, and having neither feeling nor thought of any existing thing, nor yet of himself, he was made to experience in every way the presence of Him who is above all things.